Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. I got this email from Steven Zinn, subject line, coldest inauguration in 40 years. We all know that that's a significant number in the scriptures. We're going to review that in just a minute. But in the email, thought you'd be interested in this article I read this morning about the inauguration ceremony day. The title speaks for itself. This Monday's inauguration day is the coldest in 40 years. Super interesting, all the signs we are receiving this year from God. Take this sign as you want. Well, thank you, Stephen, for the email. Yeah, it feels like this is actually part of a series of recent signs that, I don't know, for the way that I view it, it's not looking so good, I don't think, for the United States. I don't know, but I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so let's look at the link that he put in the email. This is from WTOP News, Washington, D.C. Very, very cold inauguration temperatures will be lowest since 1985. If the forecast holds, the inauguration would be by far the coldest since former President Ronald Reagan's second inauguration in 1985, when the swearing-in ceremony had to be held indoors and the parade was canceled. So, I don't know what you think about that. I think it's kind of interesting that the last time that this happened was President Reagan. Make of that what you will. This is not a political channel. Is this a good thing or bad thing? I don't know. I do feel like it's a sign, especially with it being 40 years since that happened. But there's that to consider. President Reagan, President Trump. At that time in 1985, it was 7 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, later on, he said during that inauguration, quote, "We stand again at the steps of this symbol of our democracy. Well, we would have been standing at the steps if it hadn't gotten so cold," Reagan said. Now we're standing inside this symbol of our democracy. So is maybe that what this like symbol is all about? It's not so much the fact that it's so cold that it can't be held outside, but is it about coming inside the symbol of our democracy, and therefore this is actually like a good sign? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see how this goes. And then it talks about other presidents of the United States. John F. Kennedy, 22 degrees. Joe Biden, 48 degrees. Oh, sorry. Oops. No, 40. Oh, I missed that. 42 degrees for Joe Biden. Sorry, let me correct this. And then for Trump's first inauguration, it was 48 degrees. Okay. And then Obama, 45 degrees, and then 28 degrees for his other one. So yeah, it's, I don't know. It's something to consider. Yeah, I should have highlighted this before. 20 degrees for this time for Trump's second inauguration. Okay, so that's how it stacks up. Not as cold, currently forecast, not as cold as President Reagan's, but the coldest since President Reagan's inauguration. Okay, so let's take a look really quick at the number 40. I feel like that might be the biggest part of this symbol. So what I've noticed, this is a spreadsheet called Quotes Numbers. You can access my spreadsheets anytime. The link is in the description box of each video. What I've discovered, I already kind of knew, and you probably already kind of knew too. Maybe you already knew this, but typically what you have in the scriptures is you'll have a period of 40, whether it's days, nights, whatever, where it's kind of like a testing time. The way that Rabbi Gerfine described it, that was the rabbi that I spoke to for like a couple years. He's from West Jerusalem. In Judaism, they view 40 as a time of like incubation, preparation. But in the scriptures, you'll have these like 40, these time periods of 40, and then afterwards comes destruction. So in the case of the flood, at the time of Noah, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. And then after that, the flood proper began, which destroyed anyone that wasn't inside the ark. You have this with Moses, 40 days and 40 nights. Moses was on Mount Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights, both times that he received the tablets with the 10 commandments. After the 40 days, the golden calf was destroyed and 3,000 put to death. So another 40 period and then death, destruction. Israel wandered in the wilderness for 40 years after leaving Egypt. And when they got to the promised land, after the 40 years, came destruction to the peoples that lived in the promised land that were wicked, starting with Jericho. And then, so I'm not going to explain all these. I think this one is interesting. The Salt Lake Temple, it took 40 years to construct. And after that is when the angels of destruction were released. If you're new to the channel, you may not have heard this before, but Wilford Woodruff, at the dedication of the Salt Lake Temple, said that the angels of destruction were released when he dedicated the temple. He said it, and then you have President Joseph Fielding Smith that's repeated it a number of times. I'm not going to read it right now because that's not really the point of this video, but you can check this out anytime. Pause, read this if you want. So 40. Are we going to see destruction now? Especially when we consider this is from the April 2024 General Conference. It was President Nelson's talk of that conference, Rejoice in the Gift of Priesthood Keys. And he starts out his talk by saying, "My dear brothers and sisters, today is an historic event for President Dallin H. Oaks and me. It was 40 years ago on April 7th, 1984, when we were sustained to the quorum of the 12 apostles." So at this point, he's hit his 40-year anniversary, both him and President Oaks, and he's hit his 7-year anniversary as president of the church. So those are the numbers for President Nelson right now. And like his 7-year anniversary was just a few days ago. It was on the 14th. So just 6 days before the inauguration. So we have to take that into account. Let's go to X really quick. This is a post from President Trump on what's it called? Truth Social, I think it's called. He did this post. January 20th cannot come fast enough. Everybody, even those that initially opposed a victory by President Donald J. Trump and the Trump administration, just want it to happen. It is my obligation to protect the people of our country, but before we even begin, we have to think of the inauguration itself. The weather forecast for Washington, D.C., with the wind chill factor, could take temperatures into severe record lows. There's an Arctic blast sweeping the country. I don't want to see people hurt or injured in any way. It is dangerous conditions for the tens of thousands of law enforcement, first responders, police canines, and even horses, and hundreds of thousands of supporters that will be outside for many hours on the 20th. In any event, if you decide to come, dress warmly. Therefore, I have ordered the inauguration address, in addition to prayers and other speeches, to be delivered in the United States Capitol Rotunda. So again, there's that piece of being inside a symbol of democracy, freedom, as was used by Ronald Reagan in 1985, also because of very cold weather. The various dignitaries and guests to be brought into the Capitol. Wait, what? The various dignitaries and guests will be brought into the Capitol. This will be a very beautiful experience for all, and especially for the large TV audience. We will open Capital One Arena on Monday for live viewing of this historic event and to host the presidential parade. So we just read that for Ronald Reagan, the parade was canceled. In this case, it's going to go forward, but it's going to take place inside the Capital One Arena. I will join the crowd at Capital One after my swearing in. All other events will remain the same, including the victory rally at the Capital One Arena. And then we'll end it there. So he put, that's the latest that I know at the time that I'm recording this. Okay. I was watching this from Sky News. This commentator brought up the fact that it's kind of interesting that you go back to January 6th of 2021, and we had the Capitol riot event that took place, and how now, like, we have this inauguration. Well, that was on like the day that the election was certified on January 6th of 2021. But in this case, 4 years later, Trump is now back in office, and it's just kind of interesting what happened 4 years ago. Again, I don't condone what happened on that day. I voted for Trump both times, but you can't act like an animal. Okay? It doesn't matter how righteous you think your cause is. It doesn't matter how right you think you are or whatever. There's a way that you should behave. And we can't get into these like extreme behaviors. So it's not right. Whether it's this side of the political spectrum or the other, doing things like that is not okay. It's not okay. So anyway, so yeah, that is kind of interesting. Okay, before we leave X, this is off topic, but I recently did a video about the scriptures talking about the stars falling, the stars hurling themselves and casting themselves to the earth, becoming exceedingly angry. And this just happened. I wish I had this for that video, but I don't know if you saw this. This is B&O News. Meteorite impact caught on camera for first time ever. Man, of all times. Some people would view this as an angry star casting itself to the ground. And this is the first time ever that we've caught it on camera. This was in Canada. In July. Sorry, I didn't read that before. The small meteorite hit near a home in Canada in July. It has now been confirmed by scientists. Okay, so I guess it took them this amount of time to verify it. Okay, let's just do a quick review of what I feel like are related signs having to do with Washington, D.C. That we've seen recently. So this is my spreadsheet called Signs United States. We just talked about this event in 2021. And then, not that this is necessarily a sign, but I just want it on the spreadsheet because it's significant. The rededication of the Washington, D.C. temple by President Nelson. He hasn't dedicated or rededicated very many temples. But this is one that he did. He does like the really significant temples. And I feel like that there's something to that. Anyway, continuing, November 8th, 2022. That was the last time that we had national elections, not for the presidency. But it was the first ever election day blood moon lunar eclipse. I still think that's significant. And maybe this goes hand in hand with, what's going to happen on an inauguration day. Maybe these are bad signs. March 26, 2024, the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, which is not very far from Washington, D.C., collapsed after a cargo ship rammed into it. Francis Scott Key was the author of the text of the American national anthem. Let's see. And then last year, June 5th, 2024, rare tornadoes sweep through the Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia regions. This is the first time the local office of the National Weather Service has ever issued a particularly dangerous situation, or PDS, tornado warning for Montgomery County. And this was part of that tornado streak, or that tornado outbreak that started in Utah. Just do a search. Of all places, it started in Utah, tornadoes, and you'll find that article. I'm going to skip that next one. It's just too long to explain. And then more recently, let's include this one. So we had the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City, and it was cold and rainy. Pro-Palestinian protesters disrupted the parade. There was a drag performance. It was just a miserable thing. It wasn't cheerful at all. So you had that happen. And then in New York City for New Year's Eve celebrations at Times Square, again, it was cold and miserable and rainy. On that same day, lightning strikes were caught on camera on the U.S. Capitol building, which, we're talking about that building right now. And, it's going to be used for Inauguration Day. Washington Monument, One World Trade Center, and Empire State Building on New Year's Eve. Again, yes, they get hit by lightning all the time, but what doesn't happen all the time is that it's caught on camera. And even more rare is that you have all of them get caught on camera on the same day. And that's what puts it into people's minds. And that's how the Lord can use that as a sign for people. It's not about if it's magic or unexplainable or supernatural. It's about communicating something to people. And people do look at these things and feel that it's a message, including myself. And then on that same day, there was a tornado warning issued for Prince George's County, Maryland, which is right next to Washington, D.C. And then the most recent thing, aside from the upcoming inauguration, the most recent thing was on January 6th of 2025. It was election certification day, and there was a rare snowstorm and snow emergency declared in Washington, D.C. On the day of election certification. Since it was the first snowfall of the year, the 15th annual Great Meridian Snowball Fight was held in Meridian Park. So there's like this kind of like play fight, and well, I'm not gonna get into that. It's too much. But you had this happen on election certification day, and then on Monday, coldest inauguration day in 40 years, and the inauguration is going to be held indoors. And who knows, maybe other things will happen. I'll do follow-up videos if that's the case. So that's it for that. I do believe that the Lord speaks through these type of things. I have this spreadsheet called Signs, Church Specific. And you have all these like rain events that are highlighted in blue that you can look at. You can pause and read this if you want. I just want to point out you have all these different like rain events where rain is postponed or stopped at significant times. You have like these wind events that are in gray. For example, the day that President Ezra Taft Benson passed away, there was a very unusual derecho in Utah and Wyoming. But it happens somewhat frequently, I think. I mean, not like super frequently, but at significant times. So I think that we should pay attention. And then we'll finish up on this. So I didn't get a picture of this Comet Atlas C 2024 G3. We saw Comet Shushishin Atlas last year. I got pictures of that, but not this one. I tried to do it myself. I reached out to you. If any of you had got a picture of it, please send it my way, especially if it's with a temple. And somebody got it. They're going to remain anonymous, but somebody got a picture of the Comet with the Denver, Colorado temple. It's right here. Just like immediately after sunset. I really wish that I had seen it, but I didn't. But this is now another rare temple photo. I'm going to add it to Facebook, and I'm also going to post it on Instagram. Make sure to follow me there. But I have now pictures of temples with eclipses and the aurora and other things, and now with a comet. So that's really cool. And by the way, this comet was visible on President Nelson's 7-year anniversary. So really neat, really interesting. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.